Have you ever wondered how trade decisions between countries can impact the value of currencies around the world? In this video, we will explore how reciprocal tariffs, multilateral agreements, and changes in trade policies influence the foreign exchange market. And, most importantly, what this means for the global economy and your daily life. To begin, it is important to understand the role of the World Trade Organization. The WTO is not an entity that imposes tariffs or sets exchange rates. Its main function is to establish clear and stable rules for trade between nations. It acts as a forum where countries negotiate commitments, resolve disputes, and seek solutions to trade conflicts. The WTO serves as a guardian of multilateral rules, promoting predictability and balance in international trade. However, when two or more nations end their trade negotiations, it is common for each to implement specific measures, such as new tariffs or tariff adjustments. These measures are often calculated based on economic and strategic criteria, outside the direct scope of the WTO. In practice, countries use so-called reciprocal tariffs to try to balance what they consider to be unfavorable or unequal trade relations. These tariffs are designed to protect domestic sectors, encourage domestic production, and correct trade imbalances. But what does this have to do with exchange rates? Although they may seem like separate issues, tariffs and exchange rates are deeply connected. When a country imposes a tariff on imported products, this can reduce the demand for foreign currency, since importers will need to buy fewer products from abroad. At the same time, there may be an increase in demand for local products, strengthening the national currency. On the other hand, if other countries react with similar measures, the flow of trade may slow down, harming exporters and weakening market confidence. This movement can generate uncertainty, impact foreign direct investment, and cause exchange rate fluctuations. A real example was the series of tariff measures adopted between large economies in recent years. The so-called trade wars have directly affected the currencies involved, such as the dollar, the yuan, and the euro. In these situations, investors pay close attention to political developments and react quickly to announcements of new tariffs, buying or selling currencies as they perceive risks or opportunities. It is worth remembering that the exchange rate is sensitive to a series of simultaneous factors. Trade tariffs are just one piece on this board. Other elements such as monetary policy, inflation, economic growth, political stability, and even extreme weather events also affect the value of a currency. Economists and public policy makers monitor these movements closely. Often, when analyzing the impacts of a new tariff policy, they look not only at trade data, but also at secondary effects on investment, employment, and domestic prices. This is because any change in the cost of importing or exporting directly affects a country's competitiveness. Imagine, for example, that country A applies a high tariff on electronic products from country B. Companies in country B lose competitiveness, their sales decrease, and there is a reduction in the flow of dollars or euros received. This can put pressure on the value of their currency. At the same time, companies in country A may benefit temporarily, but face higher prices or a shortage of components, which can generate inflation. On both sides, the impact on the foreign exchange market is inevitable. The WTO observes these movements, but does not directly interfere in the definition of the tariffs applied unilaterally, unless there is a violation of previous agreements. When this happens, the affected country can trigger the WTO dispute settlement mechanism, but the process is slow and often does not resolve the economic tension immediately. For this reason, the impact of new trade measures on exchange rates is something that needs to be analyzed carefully. It is not just a matter of calculating rates or applying formulas. It is necessary to understand the political context, the relationship between countries, the strategic objectives behind each tariff, and the global economic situation. Ultimately, reciprocal tariffs and other trade measures are a tool of economic policy. Their effects can be positive or negative, depending on how they are applied, who the trading partners involved are, and the broader economic environment. And, as we have seen, these effects always end up affecting the foreign exchange market in some way. If you have made it this far, congratulations. You now understand much better how international trade and exchange rates are linked. As a reward, here is an interesting fact. In many cases, the simple expectation of the mere fact that a tariff is already enough to move markets. In other words, sometimes it is not even necessary to apply the tariff, it is enough to announce that it can happen. This is the power of information in a globalized world. And that is why understanding these relationships is so important for those who follow the economy, politics, or investments.